Hi there. I just wanted to start this video today with a bit of a rant about something that I've been thinking about for quite a long time. Most of you who've seen my videos and posts before will know that I'm really passionate about the idea of us being sustainable and independent from the system and from the state. And one of the best ways to do that is to embrace an alternative lifestyle. Because I was just walking around my flat this morning, which, I have to admit to, I have some gratitude for it because it's a roof over my head, and, that's great. But I also see the millstone around my neck, which it is as well, because, I'm paying nearly £1,000 a month in rent to live somewhere when I could easily live in the space of probably the smallest room in this flat quite comfortably. And I was just thinking, no other animal needs to have so much space around itself to call home. It's absolutely crazy. And really, it's not even about what we need, is it? It's about what we need to accommodate our stuff and the amount of stuff that we've accumulated because we've been told what we need. And so then, over the years, we accumulate all this stuff that we need. Because what the capitalist system does is it creates need. So where there isn't a need, it creates need. And you'll probably remember that really insidious, awful ad campaign that iPhone did a few years ago, where it said, if you don't have an iPhone, well, you don't have an iPhone. In other words, if you don't have an iPhone, you're inferior, and you better get an iPhone if you want to be a proper person. Hopefully, most people have got the intelligence to see through that kind of advertising. But young people in particular are really susceptible, as we know. And so what happens is, over the years, we accumulate all this shit, and apparently our living spaces need to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm thinking, no, what they need to do is get smaller. I'm really excited about the idea of moving off-grid and living in a van or living in a tent or living in a yurt or living in a house that I've built myself out of natural materials. And that is all I need. I mean, there's been loads and loads of sort of documentaries done by people where they literally packed a small rucksack and just kind of went off and decided to live intuitively, and they found that actually all they needed was what could be contained within a small rucksack. I mean, that's the reality. We've just become really so far removed from the natural essence of ourselves and how we really should be living. I mean, I don't want to kind of it's not a good idea to use words like should, really, because, then you're kind of putting a judgment out there. But then on the other hand, I think there's some things that we need to be judgmental about. And let's face it, these enormous houses with all this stuff are actually weighing us down, and they're keeping us trapped in slavery. One of the main reasons why we are kind of slaves to this system is because the more you invest into it and the more stuff you accumulate and the more, the better job you get and the bigger promotion you get and all the rest of it, the more trapped in it you are, and then it just perpetuates itself. So the more stuff you have to get and the better stuff you have to get. And I know it's totally obvious, but I think it's reflected back to us in our living spaces and in the way that we're actually, choosing to live. I just think embracing, alternative ways of living are where it's at, really. Even if it's just an experiment, just try it out for a while. Maybe just go and stay for an extended period on a campsite or something like that and just see what do I actually need, and, could I free myself up to be who I have always been, but I haven't been able to be because of the system. Because this is something that I found through this journey of awakening, is that after the sort of initial few years of transition, it started to speed up and speed up and speed up, and I was able to actually really identify clearly where the mind control was and what I needed to do about it. And the fact that, the political awakening or the awakening of knowledge is one thing, and then the spiritual awakening, is another layer. And then there's looking at the conditioning and the emotional mind control and the basically controlling pretty much of the human computer, and this is something that I've come to understand even more recently, about the fact that the body, and David Icke is absolutely fantastic, and I mean he talks about this, he talks about the computer, and I think that's why it's so important to understand things like, to bring into your research stuff like psychology and neuroscience, because although we are spirits, having a human experience with a human body, within a human body, that human body has certain ways of processing information and processing food and processing, water and everything that it needs to survive. And all of its kind of needs, they're quite set, pretty much every human has those same requirements, which points massively again to the body being a kind of computer, and that really understanding how it works is important if you want to free yourself of the system and free yourself of mind control, because there's all these kind of insidious ways that they get to us. For instance, the way that we kind of conduct our relationships and our family relationships and all the rest of it, it's highly likely that in fact we know that indigenous tribes lived in a far more community orientated way. So it might be that children were actually brought up collectively, and that a group of people were involved in their in child rearing, which is really, really interesting, because then what happens is, it's very obvious that through community, the needs of the computer as well as the spiritual needs are taken care of, because you've always got help and assistance with physical tasks which may be too difficult for you because maybe you're not strong enough to do it on your own, or you're not, well enough, you're not well, or something like that. So everybody rallies round, to help, because this is a there's a real kind of core understanding of the fact that we are all one, and that translates into the way that people behave on a daily basis if they're within a community. I'm not saying that it's utopia, because obviously there's different personalities involved and fallings out and that kind of stuff. But something that I think is so interesting and I'm so excited about is non-violent communication, and there's some excellent information out there. I mean, I'm actually going to do a course in it at some point soon, because I just find it absolutely fascinating. That one of the things that we do, if you think 80% of communication or whatever is non-verbal, so that's the first thing. So the essence of ourselves is often what people are reading, not the words that we say. But if you have a mismatch, for instance, between what is in your essence or what is your deep core belief system and the words that you say, people are picking up on that on some level, and it's affecting, all kind of, it's affecting basically everything in terms of your interaction with other people. So non-violent communication teaches you how to use words in a way that are inclusive and create harmony rather than the opposite, because quite often we want to create harmony through our words and we're thinking, why can't I reach this person, why is this person reacting so angrily to what I'm saying when I know I'm coming from a good place. And quite often it's the words that we choose because the computer reads it in a certain way, and I just think we need to understand more about that, the kind of psychology of the human mind, brain, whatever you want to call it, because it's not that it's separate from our source, but if you are someone that kind of believes, like I do, that this is possibly an incarnation that we have opted for, that has some really, really clear set challenges that we are here to overcome, through shifting karma and through hopefully getting to a point of enough enlightenment where we are free to return to source, and don't have to incarnate here again. I mean, that's kind of my thinking. It makes sense to me, because let's face it, we've got this absolutely beautiful, beautiful planet. which I think is really quite illusory. If you think about it, you only ever perceive anything from your own standpoint. So in a way, you really are only ever communicating with yourself and meeting yourself in life. So you are meeting yourself despite whoever you meet. You're just meeting yourself in a different set of conditions with a different person who is triggering different stuff, good and bad. You're only ever experiencing a new place through your own understanding and through your own perception. And I think that just goes for pretty much everything. So we are creating this illusion, we are living this illusion. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Whether it's an illusion or not, the point is that, you know, we have to be here. And as the saying goes, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So we're here on the earth plane having a human experience, and kind of that's what we need to do. So yeah, this is kind of like a little sort of video that I've done today just to put some ideas out there about lifestyles. Because I think people feel so trapped, and I guess that this video is kind of for people that are thinking about transitioning into an alternative lifestyle, and they've got real fear around it, because I meet a lot of people who are on the verge of kind of breaking through into a new paradigm and a new way of being, but they feel kind of quite fearful, which is perfectly understandable. And I still go through that myself when faced with some kind of new level of awareness or a new challenge. It's kind of like, it's a fear of, I believe, letting go of what we perceive as safety nets, which are actually chains, because we've been convinced into thinking that these systems of control are there to protect us, when in actual fact we are perfectly capable of taking care of ourselves. It's a little bit like when you domesticate an animal, or even when you raise a wild animal in captivity, it becomes incapable of looking after itself in the wild within its own habitat, and that is what's happened to us. And so the way forward really is to empower ourselves through taking small steps and making having experiments really with what we can and can't do. I think that's the best way to do it. Personally, I think the whole of life is an experiment, hopefully with lots of learning experiences along the way, which eventually take us to a point of enlightenment. And so even the fear around it is part of the process. It's like one needs to feel that, embrace it, admit to it. Yeah, I'm feeling that fear, whatever. Come into the present moment, because that's where our power is, because the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist, and it's in the now that we're empowered, and that there's nothing to be scared of in the now. And kind of using that way of thinking to break through and take some chances, on living authentically in the way that we feel drawn to. Because if you speak to most people, their eyes light up about something, they're impassioned about something, it's in there, but it feels like a distant dream, and that is just so wrong. That's so wrong. You know, we are here to experiment with, to realise, and to realise our dreams, to experiment with life, to realise our dreams, to experience life, to experience the polarities of life, meaning the good experiences and the bad experiences, because we need both. Because without, pain, we wouldn't experience pure joy and all the rest of it. And I do feel that this is perfectly designed, kind of like enlightenment assault course. Like life is like an assault course towards enlightenment. It's not an easy ride. I don't think that kind of denying negativity is helpful. I don't think that pretending that you don't feel a certain way because you feel like you need to be positive all the time is particularly helpful. I feel that by embracing and accepting your feelings at any given time, you are likely to feel more joy more often, and then as you feel joy more often, then you attract more joy into your life. Because I do believe that like attracts like, and that the more joy you have, the more joy you have, and the more pain you have, the more pain you have, to a degree. But I think that one of the steps in there is to get some acceptance about where you are at any given time, and practice self-love, and kind of like, you know, accept yourself, to accept yourself and to love yourself, because that's what we've been conditioned out of doing. Anyway, I've just put so much information into this video. I hope it makes sense. It's just like a bit of a kind of rant come sort of, I don't know, just putting some ideas out there. I'll probably need to do some follow-up videos to kind of like break it down and make a bit more sense of what I'm saying. But it just kind of, you know, it just kind of came out, and I decided about 2 years ago that I was going to start to live in a more intuitive way. And that comes with you know, imparting information and communicating information to other people is part of that as well. So when I get a feeling like, oh, I want to say blah, you know, this might be reaching somebody, and I just felt like that was what I wanted to do today, so I put that out there. Anyway, this out there. I hope it's helpful and you've enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot. Bye.